Kia ora guys, hey, so I'm Dore, and right now I'm going to introduce you to just a quick and easy streamer pattern that I use a lot over our winter months. And basically it's a variation of the popular Mr. Glister streamer, which realistically is just a conehead zonker, you know, just tied to imitate pretty much what a lot of our southern trout feed on, the common brown bullies. Now, the key to these flies is getting into the right place, getting it the right drift, getting the presentation right, but most of all is really just getting in front of the fish and giving it movement. It's the movement imparted by the angler, the line, the currents, as well as the materials we employ, which makes these flies so attractive. Now, over winter, these fish are often anchored towards the stream bed, so what we need to do is use a fly that's going to get right down to where these trout are, and fast. It's not going to get pulled away by often high winter currents, particularly following runoff with snowmelt or releases from hydro schemes. Now, in that, you can use fish skulls. You might want to use heavy cone heads and back it up with a couple of tungsten beads and maybe lead wire, or what my mate Ronan just recently lied to me to is quite simply tying them on your good old canal jig heads. Now, what I'm going to do here is use a 1/8 jig head, just a nitro jig head, pretty heavy, pretty constant, and make things work. Now, one thing to remember is that because the hook, the eye hook's on the bottom of the jig head, if you tie that to your line and give it a bit of a tug, your fly's going to ride upside down. So when you attach it to your vise, make sure you hang that hook upside down and get things rolling. Now, quite simply, use strong thread. And I'm not too worried about the base layers and things because these are pretty rough and ready and feral flies. The whole idea is you don't want them to be pretty, you want them to look very, very buggy. You want them to just basically get down there, grab the fish's attention, create movement, and get eaten. So they don't have to be works of art, which suits me well because I'm a big fan of spending the littlest amount of time at my vise and the maximum amount of time fishing. Now what I'm going to do is basically just attach some thread there, grab some copper wire, and attach that to the back. And that copper wire is going to be used to hold the zonker strip in as needed. Now just wind it in, half a dozen sort of wraps of thread are going to keep that there and everything's good. Now any sort of buggy brownish dubbing is what I tend to use. You can use Glister, anything you want, but hey, I've recently been using crap dubbing from the Fly Size Dungeon, and the colour of this is brownish, which suits me very well. Now, you don't want to tie it on nice and neat, you want to keep it nice and loose, kind of bulky, kind of just so you can pick it out afterwards with your Loon dubbing needle. So thread it on, roll it round, keep it loose, keep it really fishy and keep it messy, which is the key, especially with streamers. And the key is as well is not to make too long a dubbing rope. You can always add more as you go. It's not the easiest stuff to dub here. It's got long fibres, short fibres, soft fibres, firm fibres, but most of all it's got some very long, really buggy rubber legs in amongst it all. And that's what makes it quite tough to spin around your thread. I could easily create a dubbing loop and attach it that way, and that would come out super buggy. But again, I'm all for time for speed, realistically, and getting a bunch of these bad boys knocked out and then getting onto the water rather than spending all my time trying to make my flies look pretty. And as you'll see in the end production, pretty much turns out how I'm after. Okay, now leave plenty of space at the front there because you're going to attach your zonker strip and then another collar. Now I tend to use the Hairline Magnum Rabbit zonker strips and cut them to length. So basically, I'm going to choose a nice solid brown one, about that long. I'm going to cut a big point in the back of it, make it from there, trim it down through there. That way then it kind of tapers at the tail out, you know, it's not as heavy, not as big. And I'm going to measure it carefully for the front. I'm not too worried about creating a nice taper at the front because it's just going to get ripped in anyway. Now one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to attach the pelt. I'm going to actually just hook the pelt through the hook here and then fold it down, bringing my copper wire out the way. That's going to secure the back end of that tail. Now I'm going to stretch that out. I'm going to wet the fur to make it a lot easier to handle. I'm going to split the fur using my scissors or a dubbing needle if I was a bit more organised and could remember I actually left it last time. I pretty much blame Oscar. Our cat is an arsehole and I'm pretty sure he's got it somewhere. Anything essential when you need it on the spot, he's usually taking it away from you. Now I'm just going to wrap 3 or 4 wraps through here to secure it. Again, I'm using quite solid thread, so it's going to hold quite nicely when I need it to. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's nice and secure. I'm just going to trim any excess off like this. Now, I could have measured it beautifully, but hey, as I said, these are rough and ready and it's all going to be hidden under a big ball of dubbing at the front. Now that's going absolutely nowhere. Where's it going? Nowhere. Okay, I'm going to wet my rabbit fur again. Makes it easy to handle. And I'm going to start ribbing it. Make a nice clean separation of the fur with my scissors or wannabe dubbing needle. Place the wrap around. Make sure that the pelt doesn't twist around the hook. You want it to remain on, well, effectively the bottom of the hook, which is going to be the top of the fly. Say that after a few beers. I'm just going to repeat as I wrap up and secure it down. Now I'm using a reddish sort of copper wire. Basically it's just going to give a little touch of, a little hint of colour. You can always put a few strips of flashable or other sort of flash at the head, at the tail of the fly, and maybe at the head if you wish. But yeah, again, there are times for flashy flies, and majority of the time you don't want flashy flies. You just want something that's going to grab their attention. And I find with a big thick magnet Zonka strip and presenting it down where the fish are, that's enough to grab their attention. Now wire's secured. Finally I'm going to place some more dubbing up the head here. Long drawn out process, I know, but hey, you know, it's one of those things, and it's been a long day out on the lake there. I'm going to wrap that to the head. Really nice big sort of collar shoulder sort of thing happening there. Wrap a few things and throw 4 or 5 whip finishes, and again that's going nowhere. It's nice and buried, nice and sorted. Now one last thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to use my dubbing brush, and I'm just going to dub out the back of this fly. Dub it out, dub it out, dub it out, dub it out, and we're done. Okay, and there's basically our end result. It's a nice wee heavy streamer designed to pitch out, designed to get deep, and designed to grab the fish's attention. Anyway, I'll throw a screenshot up at the end of this video so you get a better view of what this looks like. But hey, I'm Chris Dore. This was a painful 7 minutes, I'm sure, but hey, enjoy.